This is the rumor mill. Before we jump into the rumor mill, it needs to be said that we are not going to be talking about all possible rumors that are associated with anything nerdy, because that would be impossible. I don't have access to all of those rumors, and honestly, a lot of those rumors really hold no water. So we're only going to be talking about the big ones, the ones that won't go away, or the ones that I find interesting, fun thought experiments, or something somewhere in between. So otherwise, if you have a rumor that you want to share with me, find me on the social medias. Just look for Generally Nerdy. My Nerdy Ninja is the guy, and that is where you will find me. So all of that being said, these are the rumors for today. Rumor mill. Let's jump into it. All right, so no confirmations, no refutations. We're just hitting hard on the rumors. So coming out the gate swinging, our first rumor has to do with the MCU. We have the Illuminati in the rumor mill. Apparently, we are going to be introduced to the Illuminati in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Likelihood for this, I mean, the source is not the greatest, but it is kind of being reported by multiple places. I'm pretty sure, though, they're all using the same source, so I can't necessarily use the shotgun effect that we're getting here to mean anything other than the one guy talks to more than one person. It just seems super, I mean, it's possible. I just don't think multiverse is the, maybe it is. We're going to give it slightly above halfway there because I just talked myself into it. So 55% likelihood that this is a thing. Before we move into the next rumor, though, let's get a little reasonable real quick, reasonably nerdy, jumping into, all right, so I've heard, again, Comicsgate and Gamergate types saying, oh, it'd be cool if, and then they attach some sort of reference to the original source material. It would be cool if we got this source material thing or that source material thing. And now that we might be getting something, they're saying, oh wait, the Illuminati, those guys in real life are said to be child molesters. This is not real life. We're talking about comic book movies. Stop trying to poop on everything. I get it. There's a lot of garbage out there, and we need to be the ones to be there to sift through it and point out the flaws so that it can get better. Understood. But if this is a thing you've been asking for and you finally get it, don't turn it into something horrible. Okay, moving on. Next, we're talking about the Book of Boba Fett. We are now rumored to be getting another bounty hunter because Book of Boba Fett, it makes sense. We're going to see a few of them. This bounty hunter that's being rumored is Cad Bane. Cad Bane is said to be one of the many bounty hunters that we're going to be seeing in this series. Though, this rumor goes on to say that Cad Bane will be a significant part of this series. Sounds exciting. This one actually slightly better than the previous rumor because it does legitimately come from two different sources, so we can go a little higher. Neither of those sources, though, are great, so we're gonna go about 60% likelihood. It seems likely, but the source doesn't really mesh. Yeah, so staying in that vein, though, we are going to talk next about the Mandalorian video game. The Mandalorian video game supposedly has just leaked some footage of gameplay that honestly looks pretty freaking cool, if you want to believe it's actual footage and not just something somebody cooked up in their basement, because yeah, that is equally as likely if you're just looking at this trailer. So also, if you go through and you find some of the people who work for these companies that are in charge of these things, and you've seen them break it down and go, wow, that looks really good, but that's not anything we're doing, then you kind of start to realize, oh, this is somebody cooking up something in their basement. So honestly, the likelihood that this is a thing, probably pretty low. We're gonna put that at about 30%. I honestly, I kind of want to go higher, but that's just wishful thinking. I get there is reason to believe this is very fake leaked footage. Next, we are talking still more Mandalorian news. We have a rumor that season 3 of the Mandalorian series on Disney Plus is going to be the final season. depending on which source, because this one does come from about 3 or 4 different sources. Depending on which source you hear it from, there's a number of reasons why this might be. The one I am more want to believe is that that's just the end of the story arc that Filoni and Favreau have put together. It's not the last time we're going to see Din Djarin. It's not the last time we're going to see Grogu. It's just the last time we're going to see them in this series. And then they're going to go off into the other things that they're working on for Disney Star Wars. That kind of makes sense. There are other things that say that Pedro Pascal is being a little more difficult this season to work with, in that because he's working for HBO doing their Last of Us series, and he's getting more money from HBO, and so he has to find the time to do the Disney work, which seems a little backwards to me. That doesn't seem to mesh well with what we know about how Disney works, but I mean, I don't know all of the details. I'm not behind the scenes. I'm just speculating here, so that one I'm less likely to believe. Either way, the likelihood that season 3 is the last for The Mandalorian, I think there's a strong possibility here. Being as some of this information that has been disseminated down comes from one of the actors, comes from Carl Weathers. So, I mean, he doesn't say specifically that season 3 is the end, but there's a little bit coming from him there too. So I'm going to put this right about 70%. I mean, there is still a bunch of wiggle room here, but it honestly would not surprise me if that does turn out to be the case. Our next rumor has to do with Harley Quinn. This is a long one. I've told you. This is a long episode, y'all. So our next rumor has to do with Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is reportedly getting an HBO Max series in live action, because we already know she's got the animated one, does well. Honestly, it's a pretty decent substitute for the Venture Brothers. If you're a big fan of Venture Brothers, definitely check out the Harley Quinn animated series, because they go hand in hand. It's a pretty good substitute for Venture now that Venture's no more. But or Venture, just rewatch Venture because it's on HBO Max now too. Anyway, so the rumor does go on to say that they do not know who is going to play Harley for the live action series, but they are saying that it is in fact in the works. So, likelihood that there is a live action Harley series and that it might not be played by Margot Robbie, that seems a little low to me there, nerds. I can't. What we know of producer types, what we know of the people in charge that don't have any faith in their audience whatsoever, this would do a lot to confuse the audience in their mind, right? Because they think that you can't have Batman on a TV show and then have a different Batman on the big screen in the movies, because people won't know which one's real, when really they're both fake. So you guys suck. Anyway, it just seems like it doesn't go with what we know of how the machine works. So for that reason, and honestly that reason alone, because it's a pretty decent source, but for that reason, I can't go above like 35%, and I feel like that's even a little high. Moving right along, we have a tech rumor, and we've got a bunch of rumors, y'all. A tech rumor for if you are a GoPro fan, if you have not yet bought your first GoPro and you're waiting for it to be an amazing one, this might be the rumor for you. GoPro Hero 10 Black is reportedly going to start using a brand new sensor, the what is it called? GP2 sensor. So it's a proprietary sensor, hence GP GoPro. GP2 sensor is going to be a 23 megapixel sensor and is going to allow for 5.3K at 60 frames per second, which is huge on video side. That requires a lot of processing power. That requires a lot of stuff. So hopefully, the source for this is a new source for me, so I haven't been able to test their track record just yet. So I'm going to give this about a 50%. It does seem to be in line with what we already know of the trajectory for GoPro, so no reason to not believe it. But again, new source, can't go above 50%. Our next rumor has to do with Cable in the MCU. Cable is supposedly going to be coming to the MCU in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, or, depending on which version of this rumor you hear, Deadpool 3, which is early in production right now, so maybe? Anyway, so Cable, the most likely here, I think, is Doctor Strange. It's the one that's coming out the soonest. I don't think Cable will have any sort of major role here, but I do think there will be at least some sort of passing cameo, even a post-credit stinger that will reference or feature Josh Brolin's Cable. So, likelihood for this one, I'm going to put this one at about 65. That's a pretty conservative number, I feel like, but I honestly think that Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is going to be huge for the MCU. Moving right along, we have gaming rumor, kind of. Apex Legends is now rumored to be getting a series over on Netflix. The rumor does not specify if it's going to be a live action or an animated series, though it does seem that Netflix want to do more towards the animation side of things. We've seen a bunch of their adaptations, most notably Castlevania, go that direction. So that kind of makes sense. They are trying to do the same similar push to Amazon. Amazon's trying to do that push into the Asian countries. So I'm sure Netflix is on a similar kick. So there's a lot here that kind of says, yeah, this makes a little bit of sense. We don't know where those rights have landed just yet. We do know that there are people trying to buy the movie and series rights to Apex Legends. So if Netflix is the one that has secured them in some way, that would do a lot to legitimizing this rumor, but as it stands, that has not happened. I'm going to put this one probably another 60% likelihood that we are going to see some sort of series on Netflix based around Apex Legends. Our final rumor, this is the big one, y'all. Our final rumor for this episode is one that's going to break my stinking little heart. Mortal Kombat is rumored to be getting a series over on HBO Max, an animated series. This is the second time we've talked about something Mortal Kombat going directly to HBO Max. This time it is specifically an animated series. It's coming from another source, so it's not the same source that said they're doing something. This source is being a little bit more specific, but the vocabulary is what's breaking my heart, because they say that the animated movies, Mortal Kombat Legends, Scorpion's Revenge, and the new one, Defenders of the Realm, Battle of the Realms, listen to me, and the animated series. Anyway, Battle of the Realms are not owned by HBO Max, which is why HBO Max is trying to do an animated series. HBO Max is not an entity unto itself. HBO Max is a platform through which Warner Brothers disseminates its properties. It just so happens that it used a name that it owns that has a lot of brand visibility that is not directly related in the minds of the people to Warner Brothers, so therefore they could do different things. It's a long thing, but they own HBO Max, which means they can put whatever they want onto HBO Max, which is why these movies are going to HBO Max. So why? Because of that vocabulary, because of that broken nonsense vocabulary, I cannot for the life of me, even though I want this to be true so bad, I cannot give this much higher than 30%. I think that's even generous. 30% likelihood that we will be seeing an animated series in the next year or two, because again, eventually anything's possible. Long enough timeline, everything is possible. But in the near future, are we seeing a Mortal Kombat animated series on HBO Max? In the foreseeable future, are they going into early stages of production for such a thing? Probably not. And that is the end of the rumor mill, nerds. And that was the rumor mill once again, nerds. If you want to see the full episode, because this does come from a much larger episode, then you can follow the link in the description. The top link should take you to the episode, unless you're not on YouTube, in which case go to youtube.com/generallynerdy and you can do the thing and see the stuff and all of that jazz. And thank you very much, nerds. There's also a website, generallynerdy.net. Patreon.com/generallynerdy is the paywall that you can get behind, all of the things. I'm gonna go now. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.